Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Friday, July 25th. Thank you, Jesus. We are launching the weekend, and we have a very special guest for you today. I have so been looking forward to interviewing an amazing person. His name is Nick Bryant. He is the OG, the original gangster, the journalist who broke the Epstein scandal wide open many years ago by releasing his Little Black Book. Nick Bryant is likely the world's foremost expert on elite child sex trafficking networks. He's also the man who obtained and released Epstein's Little Black Book, which ignited the firestorm that we are witnessing today. And yes, there are a lot of headlines out there. There are a lot of salacious stories. There's a lot of clickbait. And it is like as I mentioned very often, a fire hose in our face every day with the 24-hour news cycle. This story is important because it is one of many stories of elite corruption and abuse of children that has permeated this society for well over 2 decades. It's one of the reasons that our federal government, state governments, and so much within American culture today is completely corrupted. It is not only the crime of abusing young children, boys and girls, it is also the cover up and the blackmail. So many of those crimes being used to blackmail politicians, judges, heads of state, people who are connected to positions of power throughout the country. It is one of the fundamental issues of corruption in this country and across the globe. And it's very difficult to get the root to the truth of these stories. Nick Bryant is a journalist that is very unique and very special. And I'm going to tell you guys about that in a minute when we introduce him. This is going to be a very, very interesting show today, but there is a lot going on. I want to say hello to everyone on the live chat. Karen Carpenter, 27. Great to see you on the live chat. I hear that Catherine Austin Fitz had a phenomenal interview on financial rebellion. That is a must-watch show at Children's Health Defense, laying out all of the financial issues that we are seeing today in the country. And that is a big, big story that we're going to be covering next week. We are going to be bringing into the Joy Virtual Studio once again Aaron Day. I'm also working on Peter Schiff and other financial experts to talk about this financial situation. Inflation is now rearing its ugly head again. It never really went away. We're going to look at a quick article before we get to Nick Bryant today in the opening monologue of the Shannon Joy Show on that issue. Also, very disturbing headline. We predicted this months, if not years ago. Your 401k, your investments are now at risk as Donald Trump moves to sign an additional executive order. This was announced yesterday, that is going to open the door to private assets and, as we predicted, cryptocurrency. The rug pull is coming, and so many Americans tragically are going to be duped into switching out 401k into crypto assets. It is a complicated scheme, but essentially this is yet another bailout for the billionaires, and they are aimed squarely at your 401k. This is why the independent IRAs, individual IRAs backed by gold and silver are so important. We're going to have experts in next week to talk about all of the financial aspects of this. So you do not want to miss next week's show. Make sure that you guys are signed up for the Shannon Joy Daily e-newsletter so you know who we're interviewing every single day so that you can be in the know and protect yourself in so many ways, but in this case, financially. This is a major rug pull that is coming. Has to do with tokenization, stable coins, Tether, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrencies. And this is going to be the Ponzi scam to rule all Ponzi scams. They are out of money, out of cash. Inflation is absolutely crushing some of these private equity funds. They are looking for a bailout, and they're looking at we, the people, once again. You can combat that by having some knowledge. And so we're going to be focusing next week on that. Of course, Aaron Day, an expert on crypto and finance. We're going to have him in. Also, Danny Pinter. She is one of the attorneys representing the victims of the Tate brothers as we speak about child trafficking and sex trafficking scandals, the abuse of human beings, and the cover up by elite government officials. In this case, we have Donald Trump and his special counsel, Richard Grenell, protecting the Tate brothers using diplomatic pressure to bring them out of Romania, where they're facing multiple charges of sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, rape, criminal organization, and many other crimes. Also, many crimes in the UK and also here in the US. So, we have a real-time story today of a criminal sex trafficking ring and the cover up by powerful institutions, in this case, Donald Trump himself. That leads into the Epstein scandal, which leads into the Franklin scandal. And these are the scandals, these are the pedophile rings that Nick Bryant has been reporting on for almost 2 decades. So he is our guest today. We have a live exclusive with Nick Bryant here on the Shannon Joy Show. We're going to bring him in just a moment. Want to say thank you to all of you on the live chat. Those of you who are supporting the Shannon Joy Show through your monthly contributions, go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. It's my independent website. You can sign up for the daily e-newsletter and also contribute to this show, this independent organization, with your monthly contribution. For those of you who do contribute monthly, thank you so much. Your support of this show is everything to me, and I appreciate all of you. Mark the Regan is with us today on the live chat. Child sex trafficking is obviously international, and that is absolutely true. MAV 2022 is with us today. Guitar Lily, Shannon, get Courtney Turner. This is all her wheelhouse. Guitar Lily, we've made contact with Courtney Turner. In addition to having Patrick Wood on the show next week, he is with Technocracy, again, the definitive source in the world on the technocracy. He will be joining us live next week on the Shannon Joy Show. Courtney Turner has agreed to come on the show, and we're going to try to set her up maybe for next week, potentially the week after. MAV 2022, is anyone else having their stream freeze up? Let me know, guys, if you're having any issues with the audio or the video. We're having some tech difficulties. As you guys know, the Shannon Joy Show is broadcast live right here on Rumble, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV. We are on YouTube, Substack, Facebook, X American News, and rebroadcast on Daily Clout and also Patriot TV. So there are a lot of platforms, a lot of different setups in terms of audio and video. And so if you are having any issues, let me know right here on the live chat. To the amazing viewer who has been telling us about some audio glitching that we're having, we're hearing certain clicking sounds throughout the show, trying to figure out what that is. Is it my mic? This is a very old mic. I need a new one. Is it one of the platforms that we're using? Annie Cyrus is our producer. She's absolutely brilliant. She is looking into this as well. But as you know, the live stream really goes through Annie, through Rendezvous, and then our flagship station is Rumble. And so getting those two to jive along with my setup right here live from the Finger Lakes region in New York State is always a little tricky. Travis Cutt says only one little glitch so far. And we're working on it, just so you know. Again, this is an independent operation. We do the best we can, but we always appreciate your feedback. Edgar615 is with us today saying good on Rumble. And Travis Cut, great to see you. Brand new face here on the Rumble live chat. Nostradamus is with us today. Karen Carpenter 27. I predicted this. This is why I cashed out. Very interesting Zen woman. Many people moving directly into gold and silver, physical gold and silver, and also, as I have done, moving into, in terms of retirement, a gold and silver backed independent individual IRA. This is why Catherine Austin Fitts always says she'll never partner with the government again on her investments and her retirement. And this is why I think they're looking at those 401ks first. So this is one of the headlines. Your 401k is changing. Trump moves to open the door to private assets, cryptocurrency. 6 months into President Trump's second term, the 401k savers are getting ready to have more ways to diversify their retirement savings accounts using cryptocurrencies. I kid you not. Yale and Harvard are even, because they're looking to cash out of their private equity, they want you to convert your 401k into crypto so that they can cash out. They're saying that individual savers could see 1,000% returns. That's what they're going to pitch to you. Okay. Convert your 401k into some type of stable coin, crypto, Bitcoin, meme coin, whatever. And you can see 1,000% increases that will make your head spin. I kid you not. That's one of the quotes. It was either Yale or Harvard. As you begin to see these big institutions trying to pimp out to you this rug pull scam, you have to know they're coming directly for your 401k. It's not clear if people will even have the power within their 401k to stop this, right? Because of those fund managers and some of the contracts that have been signed. I don't want to get into this very deeply because I'd rather do this with an expert. But in some cases, I don't know if it's even clear that these 401ks, that you have the power to say no to the tokenization or digitization or cryptoization of your 401k. So these are conversations that you guys are going to have with your fund managers, but it is coming. And as you know, the Shannon Joy Show, we are on the cutting edge of what is really going on. Keep it tuned to this show, support this show, because we're going to bring in the best truth tellers here so that you guys understand how to protect yourself. This also leads into, of course, a great piece. You guys know that one of our amazing sponsors is Colonial Metals Group. We could not bring this show to you, this expansion, this studio, the ability to bring Annie in to produce the show. This is all because of some of our key sponsorships. And Colonial Metals Group has been a partner with the Shannon Joy Show. They have helped so many of you begin your gold and silver journey, whether it's through the purchase of physical gold and silver or through an independent IRA backed by gold and silver. They can do transfers. They can take a 401k and transfer a portion of that or the entire thing into an individual IRA backed by gold and silver that you direct, right? So you have all the control over it. It is much faster and much easier than I ever imagined. It took less than a couple days for me to get mine set up, and they are standing by. They are ready to talk to all of you about how you can begin to protect your retirement. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Please use that URL. Make sure that you tell them that Shannon Joy sent you. But this came out from them in the newsletter. Why are these private equity funds so desperate to cash out and trick you into converting to crypto? Well, it's because of inflation. This is the story from our good friend Todd Sawyer, who writes so well over at Colonial in their recent newsletter. Why inflation is making a comeback. After watching inflation skyrocket from near zero to a crushing 9.1% in 2022, Americans breathed a sigh of relief as it dropped to 2.4% by late 2024. The worst many people thought was behind us. The Fed had won the battle, right? Absolutely not. That was all a facade. We told you that here in the Shannon Joy Show, and that is not the case. New data is now suggesting the inflation fight may be far from over, and that's because they are continuing with the debt and deficit spending. The big, beautiful bill is no different than Biden era bills. It's exactly the same. So we should expect the exact same results. Round two could be even fiercer and more damaging than round one. And he goes in to explain what happened over the past month. We have a rebound in June of inflation to 2.7%, and this is now remaining stubbornly above the Fed's goal of 2%. So this now is causing somewhat of a panic among institutional investors. And it's because the Trump administration continues to spend, and they also continue to pursue the sweeping tariff campaign that has fundamentally altered America's economic landscape. The effective tariff rate is now 14.1%. That is a tax on every American, every small business, every mom and pop, every small manufacturing company, and it is not going anywhere. And of course, as you guys know, we told you this here on the Shannon Joy Show. This is, I mean, this is not that difficult. I'm not that smart of a gal. This is not that difficult to understand. But Federal Chair Jerome Powell has already acknowledged that electronics have become more expensive. We also have Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Costco. Not only are they selling, Costco and Walmart, gold bars and silver bars for retail purchase, they're flying off the shelves. They are also predicting that in recent weeks, they will be raising their prices again to reflect Donald Trump's tariff taxes. Everyone screamed at me when I told you this just a few months ago. But as you know, this is just the natural laws of economics. So, as you guys know, gold and silver, really the only hedge, okay? 4,000 years of human history. They have always been a store of wealth. This is why everyone is diving. They are racing into physical gold and silver as I speak to you today. It is not too late for you to get in and protect your wealth. Again, whether it's physical gold and silver or through that independent IRA. And given what Trump is moving to do with this executive order, opening up everyone's 401k to the crypto manipulation and the rug pull, it is now more important than ever, guys, that you have that conversation. At Colonial Metals Group, they are not going to give you the hard sell. They are not going to panic sell. They won't push you into anything. They have a conversation with you. They give you all the information that you need. They meet you where you are, and they help you make a decision. And that is it. This is why I partner with them. This is why they've been with us for almost 2 years. colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. When we come back, we're going to bring in Nick Bryant. He is now here in the Joy virtual studio in the bullpen, warming up. As you guys know, today it is a live exclusive with Nick Bryant. He is the original gangster, the journalist who broke the Epstein scandal and released that little black book, which ignited the firestorm that we are witnessing today. He is the foremost expert in the world, I would say, on elite child sex trafficking networks. He is independent, and he has exposed both Democrats and Republicans, first with the Franklin scandal and then with the Epstein scandal, and those who were involved in these pedophile rings through his research and writing. You can read about his broad investigations at his website, NickBryantNYC.com. One of the most unique things that I really appreciate about Nick that really compelled me to pursue him for this interview. He's one of the very unique reporters out there. First and foremost, he will critique both Democrats and Republicans because of that truth that both parties are involved in this. This is a decades-long scandal. There are multiple rings to be exposed. But the other thing that really stuck out to me about Nick is he probably has had the most face-to-face contact with the victims of these child sex trafficking rings. He has a compassionate heart. He has heard their stories. And he was one of the very few journalists that isn't using this for salacious headlines or clickbait or to drive views or traffic. He's one of the few who really has the victims in the forefront at all times and is actually invested in justice for these victims. You can support those efforts at epsteinjustice.com, but it is something that is very unique about Nick and makes him, in my opinion, one of the most, if not the most credible sources out there on this topic. So we are going to learn from him today. I cannot wait to introduce him to all of you. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, without further ado, live exclusive with Nick Bryant, we're going to take apart what is going on with this Epstein scandal, put it into context with some of the other scandals that have permeated the power structure here in the United States of America and contributed to so much of the fundamental corruption that we see that is plaguing this nation today. We cannot move towards justice for anything if we cannot secure justice for these victims. We'll be back in a moment here on the Shannon Joy Show. As you know, the Joy children are all beach volleyball players. They're always trying to get more protein into their diet. It rebuilds strength. It helps them repair their muscles. It supports the fast metabolism, and they never have any bloat with the native path. So one of our favorites on game days or in the morning, one of our favorites at the Joy household is the Chunky Monkey. And this is the way that you make it. I promised you I would give you my recipe. And if you have like picky eaters who don't always make the best choices and don't love their vegetables and, don't eat healthy, this is a great way to get, just so many nutrients packed in. So we do a scoop of, so I use the Bullet. I don't know if you guys have the Bullet blender, but we use the Bullet blender. I put a scoop of peanut butter, so natural peanut butter, then a bunch of ice. Then we pour over that enough milk to kind of cover all of the peanut butter, all of the ice. Then we put a banana, a full banana in, super ripe if you have one, and a scoop of the Native Path Complete Chocolate Protein. That's the kicker. That's where you just like ramp this thing up. And so you put it in the blender, you mix it up, and it is so delicious. It is packed. There's nothing bad in this. It is the banana. It is the natural peanut butter. It's the protein, ice, and just a little bit of skim milk. And it's just, it's so, so good. They love it. And I never, ever, no ice cream whatsoever. It tastes like ice cream though. It is, you guys are going to die. And honestly, the chocolate protein from Native Path is so good. It is so good that my kids will mix it into their milk. They'll make chocolate milk with it because it just tastes so great. It dissolves perfectly. Again, 41% off. You guys know Native Path always comes to the table with like the best discount deal. This is when everyone in the Joy audience stocks up. So 41% off Native Path CompleteProtein.com/joy. Native Path CompleteProtein.com/joy. This is limited time, 41% off.
This is Don Polano with PCM Associates. There is a saying that says, a broken clock shows the correct time twice a day. This is not how you want to invest your long-term funds by being right for a short period of time. The Argentina market was the best performing market in 2024, up 117%. Does this make it a good investment today? Natural gas prices are up over 140% in the last 12 months. Are you being told to invest in this now? Thankfully, when practicing asset allocation for a rate of return, you don't need to know the answer. This is because a portion of a diversified portfolio participates in this return along with income issues that provide cash flow and additional growth issues with liquidity. Don't chase returns. Participate in them with proper diversification. Investments are important for what you need for your objectives. We'll find those with you at PCM Associates. Call us at 800-536-1368 or visit PCMPolano.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. That was quick. Without further ado, you guys look great on the live chat. I want to bring in our guest today, Nick Bryant. He is an independent investigative journalist out of New York City, as I mentioned, probably the world's foremost expert on elite child sex trafficking rings. One of the things that is very, very unique about Nick Bryant is that he will critique these pedophile rings, regardless of political affiliation, Democrats and Republicans. There's no political party that is safe in his analysis. And he's done decades of research, first with the Franklin scandal, which put him on the map, and then most recently with that Epstein scandal, Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, it was Nick Bryant who released the little black book that just set off the firestorm. We're going to get into that and Epstein. But first, I want to introduce you to Nick Bryant and make sure that everyone knows to support EpsteinJustice.com, EpsteinJustice.com. Nick's reporting is always victim centered. It is not salacious or for clicks. And this is one of the reasons, Nick, that I trust you probably the most out of any of the experts and any of the storytellers out there regarding this. Your body of work is meticulous. It is researched. It is sourced. You are a phenomenal journalist. And I really appreciate you. Welcome to the program. And let's just start with, how did you get in to this type of reporting, this beat? I mean, it's probably the toughest out there, but how did you get started in this?
I originally got into this in 2002, 2003, and I was investigating. There was a lot of internet innuendo about a pedophile network run out of Omaha, Nebraska, and the internet innuendo talked about this huge nationwide pedophile network, and it also there was also innuendo that it was hooked up to intelligence, that it was connected to blackmail, that Boys Town, the distinguished Catholic orphanage on the outskirts of Omaha, was getting plundered for underage victims. So I approached it. I studied philosophy in college, and I tried to approach everything agnostically. And what happened was I read all these things on the internet, and there was actually a bootlegged copy of Conspiracy of Silence, which was a documentary that was made about this that was canceled. And so I really wanted to know what the truth was. And I went to Omaha, Nebraska in 2002, 2003.
Hey, Nick, can I just pause you for 1 minute?
Sure.
I don't want to upset your stream of thought, but the audio is very, very low right now. So, Annie, is there some way that we can adjust? Okay. Okay.
Is this better? How's that?
Let's do a test. Test 1, 2, if you could, Nick. Let's see what the audience says here. Still low. I see you have earbuds in and you have the mic.
Yep. Test 1, 2, 3, test. Can you hear me?
So I can hear you. I can hear you fine. The audience is saying it's low. Is it? Okay. Yes. Okay. So, guys, you're just going to have to lean in. You're going to have to listen, boost your volume on your device. It's Strident Conservative. I know it's low. There's only so much that we can do here with audio. So, you're just going to have to deal with it. And Nick is going to speak up as loudly as he can, and maybe turn up your volume as high as you can turn it up. And we're going to go on with the interview because I can hear you. You sound great, and I don't want to waste any more time on the volume. So stop it with like the alerts, guys. We know that my volume is a little higher than Nick's, but we're all just going to listen. Okay, that's good. That'll make it a little bit easier. So, my volume is a little bit low, and everyone just lean in. Okay, Nick, I'm so sorry to interrupt that stream of thought, but so it started as you were explaining with the innuendo on the internet, right? About sex trafficking rings and blackmail, and I'll let you continue.
So I went to Omaha, Nebraska to check it out. I have an old friend that lives in Omaha, Nebraska, and I went there thinking that something had happened, but as far as like a nationwide pedophile network and intelligence and blackmail and Boys Town and everything else, I was skeptical. And a grand jury, actually two grand juries, had said that not a single child had been abused. So
Wow.
I went there thinking that something had happened, but I wasn't quite sure what had happened. And when I got there, I quickly got some documents, and the documents showed that there were 60 victims,
Oh, wow.
at least 60. Well, there was an investigator. What went down is Lawrence. There were two pimps in this network: Lawrence King and Craig Spence. Lawrence King was out of Omaha, Nebraska. Craig Spence was in Washington D.C. And Lawrence King was the manager of the Franklin Credit Union, ergo the Franklin scandal.
Mm-hmm.
And he used that as a front for trafficking children. And there were two, as I said, two very corrupt grand juries that found that he didn't traffic a single child. But when I got there, and this was 2002, so and this thing had been pretty much adjudicated by about probably 1990, 1991. So I was coming in like 11 or 12 years after the fact.
Wow.
And when I was talking to people about this, it was like I was working on a expose on the KGB and Stalinist Russia. People were terrified to talk about this. And I eventually got to one of the victims, and I interviewed him. I got to one of the blackmail photographers. I interviewed him. And these were hard interviews to come by. And what had happened was there was a Senate subcommittee in the Nebraska state legislature that was looking into this. And that's how this got broken open, is because they wouldn't back down. The feds and the state had really tried to cover this up because there were reports about King trafficking children, but they've just been quashed.
Mm.
So when I got there, I was I was just looking for the truth, and I started to interview people on record and off record, but I was kind of stunned by the fear. The fear
Mm-hmm.
was extremely palpable, and I started to get followed. And this was in 2002, 2003, and I didn't even have a cell phone at this point. I'm kind of a Luddite and slow to adapt.
Yeah.
But then the Nebraska State Patrol, which played an integral role in covering this up, started to call my friend's apartment
Wow.
where I was staying at. And then I picked someone off following me. And they were originally subtle about it, but after I picked them off, they were right on my tail.
Oh my God.
Then on my last night there, I was given a death threat.
Oh my word.
So I went back to New York City, and at this point, I pretty much concluded that although there was a lot of crazy stuff on the interview, like the Illuminati and shapeshifting reptilians and all that stuff, by the time I left Omaha, I was pretty convinced that there was a nationwide pedophile network, that it didn't plunder Boys Town, that it was covered up by state and federal authorities. Those grand juries were very corrupt, that it did fly kids around, and that it was involved in blackmail. And actually, what we're seeing with Epstein is kind of a carbon copy of it.
Right. So, just so that people can hear what you said there in the last, because you just trailed off a little bit. It started. Your first deep dive was the Franklin scandal. It was out of Nebraska. Had connections to Washington D.C. High profile political characters. It was more of a Republican scandal. the Epstein scandal was more of a Democrat scandal, but you were, as you dove in, you saw the corruption, you saw the files, 60 victims, you interviewed some of the primary, some of the victims, and came away with a great injustice happened here. These are credible claims, and there is a cover up. And so that was kind of the moment that most journalists would run away. They would be terrified if they had a death threat, if they were followed. They would say, okay, I'm going to follow another beat. I'm not I'm not going to pursue this. But you did not, right? You were like, and what is the big picture here? Yes, there is an elite pedophile ring. There are probably heads of state who are complicit in this, and there's a good chance, likely chance, that they're being blackmailed. So what compelled you to continue? Because you followed the Franklin scandal, and then the Epstein, when most journalists would be too frightened or too career focused to continue this path.
When I got back to New York, the last night I was in Omaha, I had a death threat. So when I got back to New York, I was freaked out. I was frightened.
Yeah.
And I was walking through Washington Square Park with my mentor. He was a retired journalist. And I was looking for snipers on the roof. I was very frightened. And we sat down, and I love this guy. He was my biggest mentor throughout my life. And actually, I dedicated the Franklin scandal to him and the victim. And we sat down at a park bench in Washington Square Park, and he goes, "Nick, this is going to be dangerous, and I won't think anything less of you if you decide not to pursue this." And I said, "Jerry, all these kids were destroyed with impunity. I have to pursue this. I have to." And that started a 7-year odyssey where I went back to Nebraska probably, I think, 12 times, 13 times. Went to Washington, D.C. a few times. I crisscrossed the country. I had the list of victims, and it's important that I had, when you're investigating something like this, it's good to get the victim statements first.
It's good to get the victim statements. Yeah, you cut out just a little bit there. And I do want to really dial in because, as I mentioned, one of the things that makes Nick Bryant incredibly unique in his reporting is that it is victim centered. And he has probably had the most access with the most victims of both the Franklin scandal and also the Epstein scandal. And so it is that perspective. These victims have been horrifyingly abused, and then abused by our legal system and the power structure. And so they're such a critical component. But can you talk about, with those victims, you crisscrossed the country and sat down with those victims. Yes, continue to tell us about that, please.
Well, that was very tough to find them because a lot of them didn't use Social Security numbers. They had drifted into some kind of netherworld. And a number of them had been to prison. And that's what makes networks like this so hard to out, is because these victims generally come from lower socioeconomic, dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
And then they're trafficked, and they're also turned on to drugs. And when they reach a certain point, they're just kind of expunged by the network because they've lost their youthful marketability. And then they go on to commit crimes and compromise their own credibility.
And compromise their own credibility. So they don't make the best witnesses. They're not clean cut, and so society will turn away from them because they've had a criminal past or history of mental illness and that type of thing. And I agree with you. You see that so often from so many of the victims. People just don't give them any credibility because of their horrifying past. But it's that horrifying past that make them the way that they are. It's a terrible cycle.
That grand jury, or both grand juries, but the state grand jury said it was a hoax, that there was no child abuse whatsoever. And it indicted 2 of the victims that wouldn't. The FBI came in and got heavy with all the victims, and they recanted, or a lot of them recanted their accounts of abuse. But there were 2 victims that didn't recant their accounts of abuse. Paul Benassi, and he was indicted on 3 counts of perjury, and he was looking at 60 years. And then Alicia Owen wouldn't wouldn't retract her accounts of abuse, and she was indicted on 8 counts of perjury, so she was looking at 140 years. And then Alicia was called before the federal grand jury that covered this up, and she was indicted on 8 counts of perjury. So Alicia Owen was indicted on 18 counts of perjury or 16 counts of perjury. She was looking at 200 years in prison, and she refused to recant her accounts of abuse.
Wow. Wow.
And there was a kangaroo court that found her guilty, and she was, now we're talking a kid that's 20 years old. There was a kangaroo court that found her guilty, and she was sentenced between 9 and 15 years in prison. We're talking for perjury. And the authorities really tried to destroy her. They put her in solitary confinement.
Oh my word. Oh my word. You know, in terms of being a journalist, and you are a hard-hitting journalist, how do you find the credibility of these victims, and as opposed to, because you've had conversations with them, how do you determine whether they are credible or whether, you know, their testimony has holes in it? Like, what is your process there?
I do not believe that Alicia Owen told one lie
Mm.
in front of either grand jury. I've gotten to know Alicia very well, and I've gotten to know some of the other victims very well, and they're not liars. Now, I'm sure that there are people that do come forward with and make up tales of abuse, but I think that they're rare. There was a New York Times article about a judge. His name was Patrick Shills, and he was before he was a federal judge. He represented the Catholic Church in different dioceses. He adjudicated 500 molestation cases, and he said that he felt less than 10 people were not telling the truth. So
Wow.
so we're talking, with his experience, 98% of the people that come forward that say they were sexually abused were sexually abused.
Right. What would be the benefit for them coming forward? Who would choose this path of divulging these type of stories and speaking out? I mean, no one would choose this. You are humiliated, ridiculed, persecuted, attacked, sometimes threatened. I mean, this is not a path. I think that these victims, and this is one of the reasons that the Epstein scandal, I mean, we need to pursue this because there are victims, right? I mean, there were, you said, 60 named victims. Where is the Franklin scandal, by the way, today? Is there any possibility of reopening and looking at this and trying to get justice for some of those victims?
That would be great. I spent 7 years writing a book about it, and I think that we're going to have to get justice in the Epstein case, and then we can go back and get justice in other cases where child abuse was definitely covered up.
Okay.
So the Franklin scandal was published in 2009, 2010, and nobody wanted to touch it. I live in New York City. I live 4 blocks from Times Square. I live in the mecca of publishing. And I had a lot of friends in the media, and no one wanted to help me. No one wanted to touch it. There was actually one guy that tried to help me. His name is Malachi McCord. He's since deceased, and he's written a number of books. But no one wanted to help me. My friends in the media, they put their career way ahead of the destruction of children with impunity.
Yeah.
So when this book was released, and I ended up on some nascent podcasts talking to crazy people a lot of this.
Aliens and all that. Yeah, I can imagine.
So, I mean, I was on one interview, and they started talking about the Illuminati, and I told them that word is not in the Franklin scandal at all.
Right.
So nobody would touch it. And my career just was at an all-time low.
Hmm.
And I was really, really struggling for money. I was making a living as a writer, but it was very, very hard. And I'd been making a living as a writer since 1990. So that was really all I knew. And that was really all I really wanted to do was write. And then I started reading about Epstein, and there were a number of girls that were involved with Epstein, but a grand jury had said that there were no girls, underage girls, that were molested by Jeffrey Epstein. So I thought at that point that something had gone down very much and with Epstein, but that was very much like Franklin's.
Hmm.
And I went there to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and I just started knocking on doors. And I eventually got my first time out. I got Epstein's Black Book.
Wow. What year was that?
That was in 2012.
In 2012. So you sniffed something out with the Epstein thing, went down to Miami, and were able to obtain the little black book in 2012. What happened then?
Well, I started calling the victims.
Mm.
There's well over 100 victims in the Epstein case that are listed in the Black Book. So I started to call the victims, and most of them didn't want to talk to me, but there were some that did talk to me, and they were talking about being flown around the country, and they were also talking about being flown around to an island. And so I was really the first journalist to know Jeffrey Epstein was running a nationwide pedophile network, or at least I think I was.
Were the
But
were the
so
victim oh sorry. Were the victims both male and female or primarily female?
they were all female.
Female. Okay.
I came back to New York City and I started to pitch it to various editors and publishers. And it was the same kind of cognitive dissonance that had happened to me when I was pitching the Franklin scandal. I would look into these editors and publishers' eyes, and I would see the wheels go around, and they were thinking to themselves, "This is really a horrible story. All these kids have been abused with impunity, and I need to help Nick Bryant." Or I can just write Nick Bryant off as crazy, and then I can go have a nice dinner with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them invariably chose the latter. And I had the Black Book for 3 years. And then Gawker, John Cook, he's now at, I believe, Wall Street Journal. But he
That
was
name
the editor,
again? I'm sorry, that name cut out. What was the name?
John Cook.
John Cook with it, Wall Street Journal.
No, he was the editor in chief of Gawker.
Oh, Gawker. Okay. Yep.
And at this point, he's with the Wall Street Journal, I believe.
Okay.
He offered to publish the Black Book. And by this time, I had flight logs too. And I was the first guy to have the Black Book and flight logs.
Wow.
So we put the flight logs and the Black Book up. We redacted the phone numbers of the adults, and with all the victims, we redacted their last name and their phone numbers. So we were very ethical about it, and we put it up. And since then, tons of ink have been dumped on articles about the Black Book, but only 2 publications have given me any credit whatsoever for putting up the Black Book.
Amazing.
You would
Amazing.
think that people would want to come to me and talk to me about that, but I become. I'm working with someone right now at Change.org. We've got a petition going about how the Epstein files need to be released, and we were having dinner on Friday night, and he goes, "As a journalist, you're radioactive."
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you are the guy, the little black book and the flight logs. I mean, those are the 2 elements that blew this scandal out of the water. And I think, with all of the reporting from both left wing news media and right wing news media, it's always kind of a limited hangout, right? It's always about Jeffrey Epstein abusing these children, Jeffrey Epstein abusing these people, and all of those actions. But neither the left wing nor right wing media will really go after and begin to drill in and hammer in on the procurers, the clients, the people who Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine facilitated these underage girls for. And that's the limited hangout. That's what you can continue to see from even both administrations, Biden administration and now the Trump administration, engaging in yet another cover up. Is that your perspective there?
Well, actually, the cover up started with the Bush 2 administration.
Okay, go
What,
ahead.
what happened was the Palm Beach Police Department came across 23 victims, and they got the statements of 5 victims, and then they had people that corroborate the statements of 17 people that corroborated them. And they filled out an arrest warrant for Jeffrey Epstein on 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with a minor, and also 1 count of lewd and lascivious molestation. So Epstein was potentially looking at a life in prison just with those charges. But then that case got taken away from them, and it was given to a grand jury. And I don't know if your audience is familiar with how grand juries work, but a special prosecutor is chosen to oversee a grand jury, and grand jurors are just people that have shown up for jury duty,
Right.
that funneled to a grand jury. And the special prosecutor shows them the evidence that he or she deems important, and the special prosecutor calls the witnesses that he or she deems important. And there was a New York Supreme Court judge that said special prosecutors have so much power over grand jurors that they could get them to indict a ham sandwich.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So the Epstein grand jury did not indict Jeffrey Epstein on a single count of child abuse. That special prosecutor called just 2 of Epstein's victims. One was 14 when she was molested by Epstein, and she was now 16. And one was 16 when she was molested by Epstein multiple times, and she was now 18. And that prosecutor skewered those girls. And she was calling them prostitutes. I mean, it was horrible. And that grand jury indicted Epstein on 1 count of adult pandering, which is very strange because the 2 victims that testified were not adults when they were molested by Jeffrey Epstein. She was given marching orders to cover up Jeffrey Epstein.
And who was that prosecutor?
Lana Belilovic. Actually, I think she's still in the Florida Judiciary. So Michael Ryder, who is the chief of the Palm Beach Police Department, and he's the real hero in this story because he took a lot of heat, and he would not stop. He was followed, he was threatened, but he just kept going. And then when that grand jury didn't return any indictments against Jeffrey Epstein for child abuse or any kind of child abuse, he went to the Department of Justice. And he said, you guys have got to look into this case. Jeffrey Epstein molested all these girls. He has to be prosecuted. And the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District was Alexandra Acosta.
Oh, yeah.
And when Michael Ryder eventually went to him, I think that the Department of Justice had a list of 34 victims. I have that list. But I think they ultimately knew of 40 victims.
Wow.
But then it just went radio silent. And what was happening was Epstein's attorneys and the assistant U.S. attorney for Southern Florida were cooking up a very dirty deal. And I've got emails between one of Epstein's lawyers and the assistant U.S. attorney, Emery Villafana. And what they've cooked up is just so dirty that a judge or a magistrate can sign off on things. Magistrates are in the judiciary are 1 step below judges. So Emery Villafana, in one of the emails that I have, said, we have 1 magistrate that will sign off on this.
Oh my gosh.
And we have to approach him on Monday. So we got to get everything done.
Wow.
then the Department of Justice sealed that deal, and attorneys that were litigating for Epstein's victims in the Palm Beach Post appealed the sealing. And Judge Kenneth Mara in Palm Beach, he said that that non-prosecution agreement should be unsealed.
Right.
But then the feds appealed Mara's decision,
Jeez.
and it went to the 11th Circuit, and they said unseal it. And what that document did was, and this is why the feds didn't want anybody to see it, it gave blanket immunity to all of Epstein's co-conspirators.
Yeah.
All of them. And it contravened the Victim Crimes Rights Act. And that mandates, and that's a federal law, and it mandates that victims should be apprised of the adjudication of their perpetrators, and then they should have the ability to confront their perpetrators.
Right.
And the feds just trampled all over that law. And ultimately, the feds had the state give Epstein 18 months in a county jail, and he was given, he spent 13 months, but he was allowed to go out during the day and molest children. And so Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney that oversaw that really dirty deal, was appointed labor secretary under the first Trump administration.
Under Donald Trump. Yeah, he was rewarded for that. And that was the notorious sweetheart deal that was granted to Jeffrey Epstein, allowed him to continue to perpetrate abuses on young girls. Alexander Acosta, as we've mentioned many, many times on this show, rewarded for his efforts by the first Donald Trump administration with that position in the federal government. Miami Herald did some good reporting on that. That was really the first time that I began to look at this. But it was a so the the initial cover up started under the Bush administration. The cover up continued with the Trump administration, then under Donald Barr, losing the highest profile criminal sex trafficker in the world in a federal prison to suicide, which is right. And then now we have yet again. So this is a pattern for the Trump administration. And that doesn't mean the Democrats aren't indicted as well. But once again, through the shenanigans with the empty binders, Pam Bondi, now Dan Bongino, Kash Patel saying there's no there's nothing there. Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself. And then the infamous Bondi memo, there's nothing to see here. There are no victims. And then obviously culminating with Donald Trump freaking out on air and throwing a tantrum about how everyone needs to get off of this. This was a Democrat created scandal. None of it is true, despite the fact that right-wing media has been screaming about this for multiple years. And here we all are today. Nick, Bryant, what do you make of where we are today? And this yet another cover up.
Well, you've got to look at where we are today by where we have been. Mm-hmm. And when Alexander Acosta was being vetted by the Trump administration, he was asked, why did you give Jeffrey Epstein such a sweetheart deal? And he said, because I was told Jeffrey Epstein was intelligence, and it was above my pay grade, and I had to stand down. Now, and this was in 2007. There's only two people in the government that can tell a U.S. attorney to stand down. One is the attorney general, and one is the president.
Wow.
At the time, the attorney general was Alberto Gonzalez, and the attorney general or the president was George Bush too. So, and a attorney general isn't going to cover up a nationwide pedophile network and go out on a limb unless his boss tells him to. So this wasn't a Democratic plot. It was started by the Bush II administration. This cover up was blatantly started by the Bush II administration. And then we can fast forward to, and I want to say this, Obama covered it up, Biden covered it up, and Trump covered it up. So it's been covered up by both Republicans and Democrats. And that's because both Republicans and Democrats are compromised. And then to get into
because both Democrats, just so people heard that, because both Democrats and Republicans are compromised. In your opinion, between the Franklin scandal and the Epstein scandal, Do you have names? I mean, how many Democrats and Republicans, high profile through your research, do you think are involved in these type of scandals and also the cover-ups and potentially also the blackmailing? Do you have kind of a top of the head list of these high profile characters that you would be comfortable saying, they're involved?
Well, I can tell you the Black Book, how that came into my possession was Epstein's house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, tried to sell it to one of the attorneys that were litigating for some of the victims. And that attorney called the FBI. The FBI did a sting, and then I ultimately got the Black Book from one of the lawyers. And Alfredo Rodriguez circled names in the Black Book that he thought were in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein. And then we have Virginia Giuffre, who went up against Ghislaine Maxwell. Unfortunately, she killed herself a couple of months ago. But she went up against Maxwell in a defamation suit. And her sworn testimony named a number of her perpetrators. And that's where we can get double corroboration.
Okay.
Between Virginia Giuffre and Alfredo Rodriguez. So Alfredo Rodriguez circled Ghislaine Maxwell, and Virginia Giuffre named Ghislaine Maxwell as a perpetrator. Rodriguez circled Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and Virginia named him as a very unsavory
Perpetrator.
And Rodriguez circled Les Wexner, the billionaire who owns Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie Finch and a number of other lines. And then Virginia Giuffre named him as a perpetrator. Rodriguez circled Alan Dershowitz, and Virginia Giuffre named him as a perpetrator. Rodriguez circled Bill Richardson, the former New Mexico governor.
Wow.
And Virginia Giuffre named him as a perpetrator. The same with Jean-Luc Brunel, Epstein's partner in the MC Squared modeling agency.
Say that you just trailed out just a little bit.
Jean-Luc Brunel was Epstein's partner in the MC Squared modeling agency.
Okay.
They were buying children in Eastern Europe, not renting them, buying them, and somehow they were able to get them into this country with visas. I don't know how. I haven't found that exact mechanism.
Wow.
And Rodriguez circled other names in the Black Book, but here we have double corroboration on various perpetrators.
Many are speculating that the release of the Epstein files and detailed client lists and evidence could implicate Donald Trump himself and also sitting presidents and associates of sitting presidents. Do you see any credibility in those accusations? Do you think that could be the case and the reason why they want to continue to cover up?
Bill Clinton has 25 contact numbers in the Black Book. He's not circled, but he has, and he was delivering women to Epstein was delivering women to Clinton when Clinton was the president. Donald Trump's name is circled, but I haven't found any victims to corroborate that. There was a woman named Katie Johnson who filed a lawsuit, and she had said that she'd been molested by Donald Trump when she was Epstein and Trump when she was 13. But she retracted the lawsuit, and I've heard differing accounts of that. And it took me 3 years, but I finally found her, and she won't talk to me. So I don't know what to make of that.
Okay. So there's some smoke. You would think if there was no fire that they would say, release the documents. I mean, okay, let's go here. Why do you think, once again, we're dealing with a cover-up? Why would Donald Trump as president and his attorney general, Pam Bondi, in the footsteps of Bill Barr in that first administration, why would they want to cover up these files and this information, in your opinion?
Bill Barr, Donald Trump's attorney general in his first administration, he's a very sleazy, unctuous guy. And he's actually a CIA guy. I mean, even on his Wikipedia page, it says he's CIA. So, and he was the attorney general for Bush 1 that covered up the Franklin Network.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys, you see these guys getting recycled. And with what's going on today, you've got Pam Bondi on February 26th said, we're going to release the files. And then actually, I released more incriminating information on Jeffrey Epstein et al. In 2015
Right.
than Pam Bondi did in 2025. She did release the black book that I put up on the internet, but every name was redacted.
Yeah.
I,
Unbelievable.
I just redacted numbers. She redacted everything. But then she said that she'd been bamboozled by the FBI New York field office. So we can, it's one of two things. Either she was lying on national television or she was inept because she didn't look at the documentation. I'm a charitable person, so I'm just going to go with inept, at least at this point. But then she further tarnished her credibility when she said the documents will be released, but documents that are related to national security will be redacted. So now she has to tell us what a bunch of child molesters have to do with national security. So she keeps digging herself deeper and deeper in a hole. But the crescendo of her mendacity was on February 21st, when she said that, or actually it was in May, when she said that there was a truckload of evidence, and that, and she was talking about computer hard drives and disks, that the FBI was vetting, and that's an outright lie. The day after the morning after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and put in prison in New York City, the FBI sought his safe open. And his safe was not like a safe his safe was the size of a closet.
Okay.
And the feds took out lots of disks, and they also took out hard drives. And the New York Times reported that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of images of child abuse material.
So you trailed off just a little bit. Hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of evidence of child molestation in that safe.
Child abuse material, yes.
Child abuse, and that was reported by the New York Times.
The New York Times. And the Business Insider reported that there was also hard drives. So now let's talk about that strange document that came out on July 6th. It was a Sunday night they released. And I do agree with some of it. It says that there were over 300 gigabytes taken out of Jeffrey Epstein's safe. I agree with that. It says that there were over 1,000 victims. I agree with that. But the big lie is that they've been looking at, and said that agents and analysts have been looking at. They had all that stuff in 2019. Mm-hmm. The FBI and whatever dark malignant corner of intelligence that employs people like Epstein, they were looking at that stuff that day. The first thing they did after Epstein was arrested was open up that safe. So that stuff has been looked at 6 years ago. So and the Department of Justice and FBI in that strange document is saying that they're just looking at it now, which is
a lie. Yeah.
So I agree that there was 1,000 victims, and it said that Epstein acted alone. I mean, that is really absurd. In the non-prosecution agreement, the sweetheart deal, it even names 4 Epstein pimps: Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, Adriana Ross, and Nadia Marcinkova. It names. So Jeffrey Epstein just molested all these girls by himself. That's really utter rubbish, especially, and I've been writing about and researching child trafficking for many years. And the best thing you can say to a victim is, I believe you. The worst thing you can say to a victim is, I don't believe you. And our government just said to hundreds of victims who were abused by all kinds of Epstein perpetrators, we don't believe you. And that's horrific.
It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. We're talking to Nick Bryant. Please help him support the victims. EpsteinJustice.com, EpsteinJustice.com. As I mentioned at the beginning, Nick is likely the foremost expert in the world on the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, the child sex trafficking ring, hundreds of victims, if not more. And I think that it is quite obvious to everyone that he could not have acted alone. In fact, you mentioned that there are 6 named procurers that have already been named that are out there. Did I hear that correctly in one of your other interviews? That
Yes.
Go ahead.
The New York Times did a page long article on 6 of Epstein's procurers. And if the Department of Justice really wanted justice in this situation, they would indict those procurers or pimps on multiple counts of child trafficking, and then the pimps would roll over on the perps, and then you've got hundreds of victims that would testify. I mean, this thing, this thing could be adjudicated within 2 or 3 months if the Department of Justice had the will to adjudicate it.
Unbelievable. Nick, let's talk about justice. We have about 6 minutes left. And one of the things I love, you sound cautiously optimistic. You mentioned in order to get to the Franklin scandal, which involved mostly Republicans, we need to get through the Epstein scandal, which involves a lot of Democrats. And I think we might have a scandal brewing right now with the Tate pimps. I don't know if you followed Andrew and Tristan Tate and the cover up, Richard Grenell, special envoy for President Trump, traveling to Romania to strong arm that government to allow the Tate pimps to return to the United States of America. So this is yet another example of this pattern. And, it's going to be, one sex trafficking ring after another if we don't finally nip this in the bud. So I would like to talk to you about, there's a reason that you support a website called EpsteinJustice.com. There is a reason that you're talking to people over at change.org to sign petitions. I believe that you believe that we can get to justice. I'd like to talk to you about that and get your thoughts on that as we wind down this interview. And thank you for your work, by the way. Support this cause, EpsteinJustice.com. But go ahead.
So I'll give you another context of why this is so important. The Centers for Disease Control came out and said 25% of underage girls in the United States and 5% of underage boys in the United States are molested. So, and experts in the field think it's slightly conservative for underage girls and very too conservative for underage boys. But if you just go with the CDC numbers, you've got over 50 million Americans that have been molested minors. And then the Department of Health and Human Services commissioned a study that found that there were between 240,000 and 325,000 women and children that are trafficked every year in the United States. And this is where it gets a little mind-boggling. According to the 2023 Federal Human Trafficking Report, only 664 individuals were charged with child trafficking. So if you go with the smallest number by the Department of Health and Human Services, 240,000, and only 664 people are charged, that's mind-boggling. And there are millions of hours of child abuse material on the internet. And last year, there were only 1,375 people making or disseminating child abuse material.
Making or disseminating child abuse material. Sorry, you just trail. Sometimes at the end, you just trail off a little. I want to make sure people hear what you're saying.
So, despite numerous government agencies and NGOs, a fraction of 1% of perpetrators, ever go to prison. And here's another reason why Epstein justice is so important and why getting justice here is so important. If we allow the Justice Department to be unresponsive to victims in a proven trafficking case, the Epstein case, we send a message to millions of victims, and there are millions of victims in America, that they have no voice and no hope for justice. That is another reason why this has to be prosecuted, is We need to send a message to all the victims of sexual abuse in this country, and there are millions, that they can have a voice and they can have hope for justice. That's really important.
Nick, what do you think needs to happen to pursue justice in this Epstein case, and how can we help? What do we need to do to push this over? Because I do think we're close. I think we're close to like pushing and tipping, and we just have to do this. What do you think needs to happen to do that?
We need to put pressure on our legislators, and our legislators need to we combine our efforts with Epstein justice. Our legislators and Epstein justice need to work together, and because we are putting heat on various legislators, and once we get some legislators, that join us, then we can really focus. Like we have a legislator of the week where we have people call them, and this week was Mike Thompson because he's the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful man in the United States, and he adjourned Congress early so there couldn't be so they could avoid a vote on Thomas Massey's investigation into Epstein.
Right. That's how you know they're running scared, though, right? I mean, to shut down Congress, the House of Representatives, to avoid Tom Massey's vote to release these documents is astounding, Nick. That's astounding.
Well, we've come a long way from me driving around the country in 2003 with a tape recorder trying to get people to talk.
We need people like you. This is why I knew you were going to be such a great. You are a hero to me. Your pursuit of this, God bless you. God bless you. You've kept a steady head. You've kept the victims at the fore. You've been meticulous in your reporting. You've been a wonderful advocate for them, and you can continue to put them in the fore. You're a hero, Nick. I really want to tell you, you are an angel, and I'm so thankful for you. I hope this is not, I hope we can have you on again. We'll get better audio and we'll continue to cover this story and press for it. But I will tell you, on this show, we will be a voice. I know we're small, we're not the biggest show out there, but we will help you in any way we possibly can, whether it's raising money, raising up the profiles of victims, raising up the profile of your actions. You deserve to be supported, and I'm just so thankful for you.
Thank you very much for having me on your show, Shannon.
Absolutely. You keep on this. Is there anything, we have a minute or two left. Anything else you want to leave the audience with about what they can do and how they can help you?
Go to EpsteinJustice.com. You can register. We put on monthly webinars on how you can pressure your congressional representatives and other things that you can do to put this cause forward. And we do need donations. There's a number of people that are working for Epstein Justice, and we're all volunteering our time at this point. And okay. Evil always has all the money. And
of course, they do.
So we could use some donations also.
Evil always has all the money, right? But we have the truth on our side. We have God on our side. I am firmly in belief of that. Go ahead.
And go to the change.org petition that we put up and sign. And that will be hugely helpful too.
Okay. Nick Bryant, thank you so much. We're going to keep in touch, and hopefully this will not be the first time that you are here on the Shannon Joy Show. We will continue to pursue this. Support him over at EpsteinJustice.com. You can also follow Nick Bryant on Twitter. Real quick, what is your Twitter handle?
Nick_Bryant.
Nick_Bryant, BRYANT. Make sure you get that spelling right. Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right. You have a great day. Wow. We really just scratched the surface in that interview, and I appreciate all of you. Annie, thank you. I know we had a little bit of audio issues. They are on my end. I am absolutely convinced that there is something either with my mic or with my system, but we're going to try to figure out that audience. I mean it when I say we have to support people like Nick Bryant. They are never, ever, ever allowed through the pipeline of publication and elevation, right? It is always this dogged pursuit of truth, completely independent. And we need obviously to support them. So that EpsteinJustice.com is the organization, and I'm super loud now. I know, guys, I'm so the audio. Oh my gosh, we gotta figure this out. Mav says, I don't think it's your mic. It's on the commercial too. Someone pointed it out. Well, the commercials with my mic are with my mic as well. So I'll buy a new mic. We'll see if that can fix it. Maybe I can get someone here into the studio to figure out some of the audio issues as well. Huge thank you to our sponsors today, Satellite Phone Store, sat123.com. For all of your prepper needs, use that promo code JOY. They have everything. The generators, the solar panels, the go bags, the Faraday products to protect from EMP attacks and protect you from EMF radiation. Everything that you need when those lights go out, they have at the Satellite Phone Store. Sat123.com/joy is their homepage, and also amazing deals as always on satellite phones, right? If the cell towers go down, you want to have access to a way to communicate with your friends and family and also be a benefit to the people in your own community. And that is a peace of mind that people get with their satellite phones. They are able to use them when the lights go out, if there's a natural emergency or any type of EMP action. You can use those satellite phones. They have great deals for the Joy audience. Right now, they have them, plans as little as $99 a month with a free phone and a free bulletproof Faraday bag. But you have to go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy, and use that promo code JOY for extra 10% off. Of course, thank you to Colonial Metals Group and our friends over at Native Path Collagen. Right now, 45% off over at Native Path. It's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Limited time, 41% off stock up sale. It is the best, cleanest, most potent collagen on the market at the best price point. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. It was great to be back with you this week on the Shannon Joy Show. Make sure you tune in next week. We have Danny Pinter. She is an attorney for the sex trafficking victims of the Tate pimps. She will be with us next week. Also, Patrick Wood on the technocracy. We're working on Aaron Day as well, and some other great guests. So make sure you sign up for the Shannon Joy Show e-blast at theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, so you never miss a show. Like the Shannon Joy Show right here on Rumble. Give us that thumbs up. Leave those comments. It helps us with the algorithms. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you to Annie Cyrus, the most beautiful, amazing, talented producer any gal could ever have. I hope that she has an amazing weekend as well. We'll be back on Monday to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.